for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping by TC and Friends Monday Night Musings. This is the Minnesota Black Robe Regiment Podcast, MBRR Pod or MBRR Media, as we work on rebranding for for the fifth season, our fifth year of the show. We're working on rebranding, working on getting all that set up. I want to give a big shout out to my show producers, IMAP from over on Subscribed Star, the Angry Vet from here on YouTube, and then my Anonymous. You guys make it very possible for me to do things. And another shout out to somebody who is an honorary show producer, and I haven't mentioned him in a long time, Pirate Tomsky. We met back, in early 2021, late 2020. But he's a show producer from over in Great Britain, and I don't get to talk to him all that often, but Tomsky is a phenomenal supporter, and he actually paid for this mic. He sent me this mic, so yeah. Oh, whoops. Hope that didn't go poorly. Afraid it might have. But yeah, so here we are, season 4, episode 4 of TC and Friends Monday Night Musings. We're going to be taking a look at Deputy Megan Dimler and her interactions with Trooper Argabright from the Minnesota State Patrol. Here on the front end, actually, let me get this out of the way. Folks, if you're not a channel member yet, please consider joining. All the support, no matter which level you're at, is very helpful to the show. It's helpful for me to be able to keep things going. Helps keep the internet on, keeps the electricity on, keeps production flowing. I want to give a shout out to Chad as well from over in Kandiyohi County. He's the one who's paid for all of the data that we're going to be going through. And it's hours and hours and hours of data, literally hours and hours and hours of data. So, Chad, thank you so much for having provided this, and everybody over there who's in Kandiyohi County, who's in Meeker, and areas around there that have so much to say about what's taking place in the law enforcement world over there. Thank you for doing that. And also, I want to give props because, credit where credit is due. The Minnesota State Patrol on July 18th of 2024 didn't just let Deputy Chris Flatten go. They made a tough decision, and they decided to investigate and forward charges for drunk driving on Flatten. The troopers on scene did stand-up work, and I don't get opportunities to say that very often, and I want to say it here because it is incredibly important to me to be able to do that when the opportunity presents itself. Still a lot of critiques for the Minnesota State Patrol. I think that they have their own cover-up issues. As you guys watch this, today should have been, and I haven't had a chance to check on it, but today should have been the first day of the trial of Trooper Shane Roper, who on May 18th of 2024 murdered Olivia Flores willfully. You could say what you want, that it was an accident, that it was negligent or whatever, but his behavior was willful. And subsequent to his willful bad act, driving at 80 plus miles an hour, no lights, no sirens, looking for some ghost speeder in Rochester, Minnesota, he murdered Olivia Flores. And all the previous driving infractions that he had racked up weren't enough for then Captain or Lieutenant Blegovich, who is now the commander, the colonel of the Minnesota State Patrol, that wasn't enough for her to end his career. She kept him on and protected him, remedial training and whatnot. So Minnesota State Patrol has its own problems, but in this case, they did the right thing, and I want to give them props for that. Now, if Kandiyohi County would have done the right thing, they wouldn't have had to be in place, the Minnesota State Patrol, to do what they did. Folks, there is a very deep problem in law enforcement in the U.S. And I know all of you back the blue at all costs, blue line flag flying, blue line sign having people. You're all just very much enamored with law enforcement. You believe that law enforcement is, supporting law enforcement is the right patriotic thing to do. It's a conservative thing to do. Like, I'm beyond a point now where I know what to do or say to get you to wake up and to the reality, to, metaphorically smell the coffee. I don't know what else we can do. I don't know what else can be said. Other than you guys are intellectually weak because you're suffering from cognitive dissonance. And you're going to hear why, and we'll address this again at the end. But you're going to hear from Megan Dimler. And I'm probably going to have to point it out to you, but you're going to hear from her why you're suffering from cognitive dissonance. You're going to hear it in her own words. It's not, you don't get a pass anymore. Do you understand? You don't get a pass at all anymore. You don't get to close your eyes and whistle past the graveyard of your fears any longer. You have to wait. You have to start waking up and realize that the people who government relies on, that the state at all of her levels, the city state, the county state, the state state, and the federal state, the people that they rely on to enforce all of their tyranny, to make you do what they want done, whether you want to do it or not, are armed enforcement agents with badges and guns and tasers and all sorts of other tools and devices that they can use on you to gain your compliance. And so many of you out there who decried the tyranny of the COVID administrations, to include Trump, what he did to help destroy the economy and destroy this country, so many of you continue to blindly support him and blindly support law enforcement because your cognitive dissonance is just destroying you. So all I can do is sit here and say, I hope that things like what I'm going to show you now, it's less than 2 minutes long, but I'm going to make you listen to several parts of it repeatedly in the hopes that it drives in the nail that finally puts the lid on the coffin of your cognitive dissonance. Law enforcement is a corrupt career field. And I said this in last week's show on Monday Night Musings when we showed the accident itself, the drunk driving accident, that you, the wage slave taxpayers of the United States, pay for. Whether it be in your city, your county, or your state or the federal levels, you pay for law enforcement in every agency across the United States because the federal government funds every agency across the United States in different ways, shapes, or forms. So every single corrupt law enforcement agency is made possible. It's made possible for them to be corrupt by the money that they receive, no matter what, to enforce laws that are meant to target you and hold you down. And you guys want to sit here and talk about how it's basically just a bunch of good apples with a few bad apples. And like I already referenced last week, I reminded you that your parents taught you as you were growing up that one bad apple spoils the whole group, the whole bunch. Stop with the bad apple analogy. Stop with the whole, it's just a few. No, it's not just a few. Because I guarantee you, Megan Dimler thinks she's a good apple. But the interview that she's going to give Trooper Argabright, Deputy Dimler is going to show you that she's part of the problem, and you're part of the problem if you continue to blindly support this. Folks, you've got to wake up. And we're going to use Megan Dimler's words to do it. We're going to listen here. And I'm going to interrupt like I always do. So just be ready.
Recognized her. This is Trooper Argabright, Minnesota State Patrol. Today's date is 7/18.
That picture is from the day of the accident. I clipped it from a video, and you'll be seeing that full video soon. 2024, time is 1940 hours. Speaking with Megan Dimler, who's a deputy with Kandiyohi County. So Megan, earlier, why don't you tell me about the report writing room, what you'd said about that?
Okay. So I'd come into work early.
So this is Sheriff Eric Tollefson. This is another deputy, and I'm as best as I can ascertain, because it says on the right, and I'm assuming picture right is Megan Dimler. I want you to take very clear note of this blue line flag image here next to the American flag and the state of Minnesota flag. I know a lot of you fly this. I know a lot of you put it on the back of your pickup truck. And you put it in your front yard. And you got it because, gosh darn it, I am a God-fearing, bleed red, black, and blue. Back the blue at all costs kind, because back in the blue is what it means to be a Constitution-loving, Republic-loving, conservative here in the United States. And I'm going to have that. I'm going to fly my Gadsden flag, and I'm going to have the bumper sticker that says you can take that gun from me when you pry from my cold, dead fingers. But I got news for you. It's these people. It's the Megan Dimlers and the Sheriff Eric Tollefsons who stand here in front of that blue line flag that you worship. That's your little piece of idolatry. It's your sacred token. It's your iconoclasm. Fired up, folks. That's what Monday Night Musings are for, is to see all the mistakes. You have that thinking that's going to protect you, but it's these people who are going to come and take your gun from you in a red flag situation. It's these people who are going to come and lock you up for associating with people that you shouldn't associate with. So they get sworn in front of that. That's what they get sworn in front of. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that loyalty right there means. We're going to talk a little bit about what it means to have that image there. But we're going to get back to Megan and what she observed on the day of this accident.
At like 4:40, so I could do our department pictures, and I was having trouble putting my collar brass on and getting them lined up. I walked into the report room and asked Chris if he could. This was at like 4:50. I walked into the report room to see if Chris could fix my collar brass.
Here's Chris. At this point, he's got pretty much an 18-year career in, and he has just started a year after Megan Dimler. He's now started with Kandiyohi County, and there's Sheriff Eric Tollefson. And Carla Copeland. That's an ironic name, isn't it, for a cop? Right here in front of that blue line flag. This is very important, folks. Pay attention.
And while he was fixing my collar brass, obviously it was closer to my face, and I could smell it smelled like alcohol. I couldn't tell if it was like a strong hand sanitizer or if it was coming off of his breath. But I guess I've smelt that odor before, so I just thought it was something coming off.
Did you hear that? I've smelt that odor before. She's not talking about, I've smelt alcohol before. She's talking about in relation to Chris Flatten. We're going to listen to that one more time.
Like it smelled like alcohol. I couldn't tell if it was like a strong hand sanitizer or if it was coming off of his breath. But I guess I've smelled that odor before, so I just thought it was something that he uses. But it was definitely a lot stronger today.
Okay.
It was definitely a lot stronger today.
Yep. So I just thought it was something that he uses, but it was definitely a lot stronger today.
Okay.
Then yeah, that's.
Did you have a conversation at all with him? I mean, was he slurring his speech or anything like that you noticed?
He seemed normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, folks, that functional alcoholics, and to get to the point where you're comfortable to be drinking and driving a squad car, you're a functional alcoholic. There's something wrong with you. Nobody may ever notice that you're slurring because you're probably not, because you've come to function that way. But Megan Dimler just admitted that she's observed him in this situation before. And worse, she just observed it on him now. She observed the alcohol. And when I say observed, you know what I mean. She smelled the aroma of it. And what does she do? She gives him a benefit of the doubt. But we're going to let this play out.
Okay.
Then yeah, that's.
Did you have a conversation at all with him? I mean, was he slurring his speech or anything like that you noticed?
He seemed normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you smelled the odor of alcohol while he was helping you with your collar brass?
Yes.
Okay. Anything more unusual other than that?
No, I heard his behavior earlier today was off.
Okay.
I heard his behavior earlier today was off. Folks, just ask yourselves, what has to be going on in the back of Megan Dimler's mind? Deputy Megan Dimler, Deputy Dimler, as she smells alcohol on the person of Deputy Flatten on duty, and she doesn't do anything about it. She gives him the benefit of the doubt. Would you get that? Would you get that benefit of the doubt? Would you be given that kind of break? If she pulled you over and she smelled alcohol, would she go, oh, I think it was just hand sanitizer or something that you wear. Go ahead, go about your day. No. Your ass would get arrested. Your ass would get hauled out of that car. And if you refuse that field sobriety test, if you refuse to do a preliminary breath test, they'd put you in cuffs and they would haul you into the sheriff's office and you would take part in an intoxilizer because Minnesota's driver's license implied consent says that if you're going to have a driver's license in the state of Minnesota and you're suspected of a DWI, a DUI, driving under the influence, you will submit to a test. You will. No ifs, ands, or buts. You'll submit, or you'll be charged with an exacerbating crime, an aggravating crime, failure to submit, failure to comply. But not Chris Flatten and Megan Dimler. Why? Why not? It's because of this flag right there. Because the blue line isn't about them defending you. The blue line's not about protecting and serving you. The blue line's not about how they've helped the community. The blue line's about the wall, the blue wall that's built up to protect them from scrutiny, to protect them from their own laws, from the laws that they're out there to enforce, from traffic codes and from criminal laws. That blue wall is there to protect them. That blue wall is what they stand behind to shield themselves from your prying eyes, from your ears, from you being able to hold them accountable. Megan Dimler stands behind that blue line, that blue wall on July 18th of 2024. And instead of turning in Deputy Chris Flatten to Sheriff Eric Tollefson, she just gives him the benefit of the doubt. And all of you out there driving around with your blue line flags on the back of your pickup trucks are all out there going, well, you know, you can't expect her to do anything about it. It's not in her hands. What do you want her to do about it? She's just one person. She's just one person. She can't do nothing about it. She's just, look at that little thing. She's terrified for her job. She can't expect her to go in there and talk to the sheriff about a fellow deputy who she thinks might be true. What if she's wrong? Then she might have ruined this guy's life. She might have ruined his life. You over there sitting there with your stupid little beanie on inside your house talking about how she should have go turn him in. You want her to be a snitch? You want her to snitch on her fellow law enforcement officers, on them police? You don't want to snitch on them police. They're good people. It's just a few bad apples. Just a few. It's just a couple of them. Listen, you low IQ, low info, back to blue at all costs, bootlicking statists. What did your parents teach you about bad apples? When your mom told you to not go hang out with little Billy down the street or little Marky down the street, she didn't say, don't go hang out with little Billy and little Marky because they're good apples and I'm afraid that good apple's going to rub off on you. She said, no. Now, sweetheart, I want you to not hang out with little Marky because little Marky's a bad apple and I don't want you to get in trouble. So don't hang out with bad apples because bad apples ruin good apples. That's what she said to you. But you're out here going, it's just a few bad apples, TC. It's just a few. Just a few bad apples. No, it's a bunch of bad apples. And a good apple won't keep their mouth shut. So Megan Dimler's not a good apple. Eric Tollefson's not a good apple. They're dirty. They're corrupt. They stood behind the blue wall and they protected Deputy Chris Flatten. And when there was no other choice but to expose that Deputy Chris Flatten was drunk in a squad car that the taxpayers of the United States, the wage slaves of the United States, paid for, then the State Patrol had to step in and take over the investigation. Because it'd be a conflict of interest for them to investigate themselves. Now, I wish we heard that more often.
No, I heard his behavior earlier today was off.
Okay.
But I didn't witness that.
Okay. Okay. And you are a deputy with Kandiyohi County, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't care if you don't like me. I don't care if you think I'm making fun of people. I don't care if you hate me. I really don't. I don't care. I do not care. See, the problem that we have in this country is that we, the wage slave taxpayers, we're on the hook for this all the time, no matter what. We're always on the hook. I pay property taxes in the city that I live in. I pay property taxes in the county that I live in, the school district that I live in. I pay income tax in the state that I live in. I pay federal income tax in this country. They take it out of my check every week, and all that money gets redistributed all over the United States. And a bunch of it goes to the Department of Justice and other law enforcement agencies. And then that money gets handed out to other law enforcement agencies all over the cotton picking country. So my wage slave taxpayer dollars and your wage slave taxpayer dollars help fund law enforcement in every agency around the country. In every protectorate in every territory of the United States, we pay for all the law enforcement. And then they get to go out there with their qualified immunity and with their double standards and their two-tier justice system, and they get to have whatever the hell they want to have. They get to have big toys and all this surplus equipment that we pay for them to be militarized and become the very standing occupying army that our forefathers warned us about as they founded this republic. And all of you are out there, I back the blue. I back the blue. The cops are the good guys. They're the good guys. You do not understand, TC. You should walk a mile in their shoes. You should do what they do for a living. You should be the one out there doing the job. Look, next time you got a problem, maybe you should try calling a crackhead. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. By the way, the crackhead problem we have in our country, brought to you by the United States federal government's law enforcement program that you call the DEA and the CIA and the FBI. But yeah, you guys are out there. I got this thing. I got my blue line flag on the back of my pickup truck, and I got my sign in my yard. They know I back them because I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. I'm a law-abiding citizen. The only people who got nothing to have anything to fear from cops is bad people who are criminals. So why are you always picking on the cops? What are you hiding? What you hiding there, TC? Why don't you like the cops? You doing bad stuff? You doing criminal stuff? No, I love liberty and I love justice. And I believe everybody deserves equal treatment under the law. And cops don't. They don't get equal treatment. They get superior treatment. They get protected. Deputy Megan Dimlers of Kandiyohi County protect the Deputy Chris Flattens of Kandiyohi County. Sheriff Eric Tollefson of Kandiyohi County protects his people. There's no way in the world that agency, that Kandiyohi County Sheriff's Office, didn't know that Chris Flatten had a problem. But they covered it up. They closed their eyes. At the very best, they closed their eyes. And they let it go on, and they let it go on, and they let it go on. And the link to the video of his drive right before this accident is there. He could have killed any number of people prior to that. And God forbid that he would have stopped somebody in that situation, that drunk, pulled him over, or had to interact with somebody. Or maybe there was a situation involved where he had to pull his firearm and use it. Or maybe he just had a situation where somebody pissed him off and he decided to pull his firearm and use it because he was a drunk son of a bitch who, by the way, has a long track record of abusing people in Wilmer, Minnesota. Because barely 2 years before he took this job and had this accident, he and 5 or 6 other people from the Violent Crimes Task Force in that region, they call it C6, they beat the brakes off of an innocent black man. Not because he'd done anything wrong, but because they decided to intentionally misidentify him as another black man. Chris Flatten started that process when he was a cop in Wilmer. But right before the lawsuit drops, he heads over to Kandiyohi County, and a few short months later, what ends up happening? He gets drunk and totals a squad car. Could have been anybody. Could have been your family. And what would you be saying? What in the blue blazes? Yeah, I said blue blazes. What in the blue blazes would you be saying if he had taken out a car full of people that night? A family, or your grandma and grandpa? Where's the accountability? Why didn't we know? They did know. Deputy Megan Dimler knew he was drunk and she didn't do a goddamn thing about it. Because they watch out for each other. They protect each other. They protect themselves from you, from scrutiny, because that blue line is all about protecting themselves. It has nothing to do with protecting you. And if you don't believe me, go look up the court decisions that have said that law enforcement is not obligated and know they do not have a duty to protect you in a time of need. And then they grant them the made-up doctrine, the immoral and evil doctrine of qualified immunity. If that had been you driving and Megan Dimler pulled you over and you smelled like Flatten did, you would have got arrested. There would have been no benefit of the doubt, and there shouldn't have been. But he shouldn't have gotten it either. And it's not just there. It happens all over the place. The only reason this stuff is actually getting exposed now is because of the existence of cameras. But I've told you guys a story before. I worked for the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office. And in 2020, during the training time, or the stay-at-home training times that we had because of the COOF pandemic, Deputy John Bondi gets drunk during mandatory monthly training, is acting an ass, causing a scene on Zoom, gets summoned into Chief Deputy Brian Howard's office the next day, shows up drunk, and then gets driven home. So no, it's not just one or two bad apples. It's the whole damn orchard. It's all of them. Because they won't say anything when they're faced with the problem. And you guys want to make excuses for them. Well, what do you expect, TC? What I expect is for them to stand up and do the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it's difficult, even when it could cost them their career. And you can say, well, that's easy for you to say. Oh, you have no idea how hard that is for me. Deputy Megan Dimler is a dim wit. Sell out. Who could have been responsible for not preventing deaths that night. And then she ends up on scene of the accident. And we have audio of her on scene at the accident. You can hear her talking to Chris in the video that's linked. You don't think she knew that very minute when she got there and she saw the accident, what she had done? I don't know how I don't know how these people stay on the job. I really don't. I don't know how they stay in. Because we wouldn't get that break. And here's one more thing. This kind of situation, automatic prison time for a cop. Drinking and driving on duty. I don't care if he causes an accident. I don't care if he kills somebody or not. Automatic prison. Automatic termination, automatic prison time, 5 years minimum. No questions asked. You go to trial and you get found guilty, automatic 5-year prison sentence. You plead guilty. There's no cushy plea deal if you plead to a lesser charge. No, automatic. You either plead guilty or we take you to trial. And if we take you to trial, we're going to make sure you do every bit of that 5 years in Gen Pop. If you plead, we'll try and keep you out of Gen Pop. But if you don't plead and we take you to trial and you fight this in trial and you lose in trial, you're going to do every bit of that 5 years in Gen Pop. No special privileges, no protective custody. You're going to prison. Do I sound like a hard ass? You're darn right, because these are the people that are tasked with enforcing the laws, enforcing the codes. These are the people that are given the power and the authority of the state, who have a monopoly on violence, a monopoly on force, that they can use it however they want, whenever they want, with little to no scrutiny, to enforce all the laws that are used to oppress us and hold us down, to strip us of our liberties, strip us of our freedoms, to strip us of our natural rights, for the sake of safety and security. Then they go out and they protect one another and they do things like this. So yeah, should Chris Flatten be in prison? You goddamn right he should be. Chris Flatten should be in prison. And I'm not saying that people should get a break for driving drunk. Look, I just about every person who drinks has probably drank and then got behind the wheel when they shouldn't. I realize that. But there's no tolerance for that in law enforcement. There should be none. And just last year, and I told the story of this, Roger Muffley from neighboring Meeker County, Kandiyohi County, he gets arrested in Kandiyohi County at 2 o'clock in the morning with a 16-year-old minor in his vehicle and his service weapon in his possession. He gets arrested for a DUI, gets a slap on the wrist, and keeps his fucking job over in Meeker County, right next door to Kandiyohi County. So is it a few bad apples? No, they're all bad apples. Every single one of them. But y'all are out there. I'm going to back the blue till the day I die. That's my God-given duty. I back the blue. Back the blue. That's what I do. I got to back the blue. Back the blue. Back the blue. Until they come for you. Or as I've been trying to teach people, back the blue until it happens to you. people got to wake up. The cognitive dissonance is going to kill you. And I hope, I swear, as you listen to this before we end the show, one more time, no interruptions from TC this time. Listen to this and then tell me that Deputy Megan Dimler didn't play favorites, that she didn't protect Deputy Chris Flatten, that Eric Tollefson hasn't protected these people, that he hasn't built this culture of protectionism, that law enforcement hasn't built for itself a culture of protectionism. You tell me that. You listen to this and tell me that that they didn't. And by the way, if you see this little thing down here, it says members first. You see that down here? It says members first. As you watch this one more time, see that members first? If you want to get your hands on things before everybody else does, anywhere from 12 to 24 to 48 hours before everybody else does, I put out things that are for members only for a short period of time. And some things are strictly for members only. And this is one of them that will go up after this video. And then you can listen to it. So become a member to get access to that. Let's listen to Deputy Megan Dimler add more bricks to the blue wall of protection. And then you watch this and tell me that I'm wrong. Tell me that she didn't make a conscious decision that day to protect Deputy Flatten because he's part of her team. Tell me I'm wrong. Come into the comments of this video and try and prove me wrong. Recognized her.
This is Trooper Argabright, Minnesota State Patrol. Today's date is 7/18/2024. Time is 1940 hours. Speaking with Megan Dimler, who's a deputy with Kandiyohi County. So Megan, earlier, why don't you tell me about the report writing room? What you'd said about that?
Okay. So I'd come into work early at like 4:40. So I could do our department pictures, and I was having trouble putting my collar brass on and getting them lined up. I walked into the report room and asked Chris if he could, this is at like 4:50, I walked into the report room to see if Chris could fix my collar brass, and while he was fixing my collar brass, obviously it was closer to my face, and I could smell, it smelled like alcohol. I couldn't tell if it was like a strong hand sanitizer or if it was coming off of his breath, but I guess I've smelt that odor before, so I just thought it was something that he uses, but it was definitely a lot stronger today.
Okay.
Then yeah, that's.
Did you have a conversation at all with him? I mean, was he slurring his speech or anything like that you noticed?
He seemed normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you smelled the odor of alcohol while he was helping you with your collar brass?
Yes.
Okay. Anything more unusual other than that?
No, I heard his behavior earlier today was off.
Okay.
But I didn't witness that.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And you are a deputy with Kandiyohi County, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
She protected him because there's a culture of protection in every agency. Until next time, my friends, fight for your liberty. It is yours. Fight for your freedom. It belongs to you. And sic semper, Tyrannus.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.